Okay, hello class 7, welcome to our lesson 1 on sample spaces. So sample spaces is just a title for an organized way of looking at different events and calculating their probabilities by looking at their outcomes um, clearly. So there are different kinds of events. Simple events are ones that you've looked at already in grade 5. You probably looked at tossing one coin or rolling one die. Recently you made a spinner and you looked at what happened when you spun that. Compound events are when there's more than one thing happening at a time. So maybe you're tossing 3 coins, or maybe you're rolling a die and tossing a coin. So a compound event is what we're going to focus on today when there's more than one thing going on. Please pause the video and just take a moment to think about your own compound event. Just create one, use your imagination, come up with an idea, and please share. Okay, the first event that we're going to look at today is when you throw 2 dice. So you have die 1 listed here, all the possible outcomes, and all the possible outcomes for die 2. So that would be one simple event and one simple event. So when we roll them together, we get 2 numbers. So what are those possible outcomes? Well, you can see that we end up with a nice table here, or an array, and there are blank cells. There are 36 of them. So that means there are 36 possible outcomes for when you roll 2 dice together. So let's think about each of them. So if I get a 1 and a 1, I would write that here. If I get a 2 and a 1, I would write that here. So we can create a list of all of them. And please note, we're not necessarily adding them up or multiplying them together right now. We're just listing what we get. So please pause the video and take a small moment to share what you think we would write in the highlighted cells. Okay, so take another moment to check your answers, were you correct, and then take a look at all of the other outcomes, the 36 in total. So have another look at the 36 outcomes and just see, do you notice any patterns? Is there anything you would like to explore more? What probabilities maybe pop out at you right now? So something that popped out to me were these diagonal cells, so I've highlighted them all in pink. So it looks like I've highlighted every possible way to get a double when I throw 2 dice, and there seems to be only 6 possibilities for doing that. So what we can now do is use that information to find the probability of rolling a double. So the probability of getting a double is 6 out of 36, and this can be simplified using your fraction skills to 1 over 6. Okay, please pause the video again and think about what other outcomes you could find the probability of. Think and share. Okay, hopefully you came up with some good and different ideas. Now I'm going to give you some specific ones that I want you to calculate. So number 1, what is the probability of rolling at least 1 5? Number 2, what is the probability of rolling only 1 4? Please note the difference in the language here. They mean different things. And number 3, what is the probability of rolling 2 odd numbers? So please pause the video to complete these problems. Okay, let's look at some solutions now. So number 1, what is the probability of rolling at least 1 5? So at least 1 5 means anything that includes a 5. So I've highlighted those in yellow here, and it looks like I've ended up highlighting 11 cells. So because there are 36 in total, that means the probability of rolling at least 1 5 is 11 over 36. Now, what is the probability of rolling only 1 4? So here I had to highlight all of the cells that contained only 1 4. So please note, I had to miss out this cell because it contains 2 4s. So when I count these up, I have 5 yellow cells going this way, 5 going this way. So we have 10 successful outcomes out of 36. We can use our fraction skills to reduce that to 5/18. The probability of rolling only 1 4 is 5/18. And finally, question number 3, what is the probability of rolling two odd numbers? So looking at all the cells, I highlighted those cells that just contained 2 odd numbers. As you can see, there is a nice pattern going on here, and there are 9 of them highlighted in yellow altogether. So the probability of getting odd is 9/36, which could be simplified to 1/4, or 25% if you want to use your percent skills here too. Also, please note here, I've introduced to you some new notation. It's just a quick way for mathematicians to write a sentence. And we often talk about how mathematicians can make math look more complicated by writing things using symbols and shorthand, but this is nice and easy. So you write a P for the probability, and inside the parentheses you put the probability of what you want. So we've written odd here. So we will start to use this, so please take note of it. All right, so just now we looked at a compound event that contained the same kinds of things happening, so 2 dice. But what if the things that are happening are different? How would the sample space look then? So imagine that you have a coin that you're going to toss and this spinner that you're going to spin at the same time. So pause the video, talk about the possible outcomes for doing both of these things at the same time. What would the sample space look like, and how many different outcomes will there be if you toss a coin and spin this spinner at the same time? All right, so here's the sample space that I created. Maybe you did them the other way around, which is totally fine, by the way. So I put the spinner up here, and I listed the colors, and I put the coin down here. And you can see we have spaces for 8 possible outcomes in this scenario. And here we've listed, I've chosen not to write the whole word out. I've chosen just to use the first letter to help me work a bit more efficiently. And so in this cell represents the fact that you could get a blue and a head, or a blue and a tail. And then I've just calculated a few probabilities here. I haven't done everything possible, but I just wanted to practice using the notation. So this first one means, what is the probability of getting a blue and a tail? And it is 0.25, okay? Okay, so the work for today is that you are now going to stop the video and follow all of these steps. So let's go through them. Number 1, draw sample spaces for each compound event below. So the list is below, we'll read those in a moment. Number 2, I want you to compare sample spaces with your group. So maybe you wrote the sample spaces in exactly the same way. Maybe you had the titles the other way around. Just see how that affects things. Number 3, write at least 2 sentences about the probability of possible outcomes for each event. Okay, so think back to the probabilities that we wrote in this video, and you choose 2. So the first event you're going to focus on is when you roll a die and select a ball from random out of a bag that contains 3 balls, 1 of them red, 1 of them blue, and 1 yellow. So read carefully. There's often a lot of information to take in when looking at probability problems. The second event is when you roll a 6-faced die and select a card from this pack. So a regular 6-faced die, 1 to 6, and a card from this pack. So you have 8 cards here. Be careful when you're writing down their numbers. And the last event, we haven't looked at what happens yet when dealing with 3 things. So what happens if you toss 3 coins at the same time? How might you end up drawing and writing that sample space? I'll let you play around and experiment with that, and I'll be checking in on how you're getting on. Thank you.